Hey guys, Charter here. Now in this video I'm actually going to be talking about weapons and tanks that I think should be added to Normandy in the upcoming updates. Now, the thing is, these are things which I think the factions need, so more or less. Well, some of these are needs, some of these are just, personal preferences. Most of the weapons already are in the game, especially for the Axis. In fact, for the Axis, they really don't need any new weapons, to be honest. The Allies, there's two things there's two real things they need. Maybe with the Axis there's one of these they might need, but anyway, let's begin with the Allies, then go over to the Axis. Starting with the Allies, I'm gonna have to go with the Drum Mag Thompson. Now, I know what many people say, but the Drum Mag Thompson wasn't in, Normandy. I know, but it's gonna be cool anyway. Come on. I can see this being a Gold Order weapon for Normandy, but it's not going to be an M1A1. It's not going to be an M1. It's going to be it's going to be the same one in Tunisia. It's going to be the M2128 because those are the ones that were fixed with the box magazines. The M1 and the M1A1 were not fixed with box magazines. Now, the way I see the M1A1 versus the it's going to be quite similar to the PPSH and the PPSH of the box. The PPSH of the box is great. It's still a 10 out of 10 weapon, but the drum's just better in every way. Anyways, next up for the Allies it's probably their biggest need, in my opinion. It is actually the Johnson M1941 LMG. Now, there is the rifle version of this in the game, but I'm talking about the LMG version. Now, the LMG version, the reason why I'm saying this is a perfect counter to this. It is basically the exact same thing as the FG42. Oh, it's essentially the American FG42. So, doing this, it would add an American version of the FG to the game, which I know you can't, some people are like, oh, you're just encouraging the FG42 spam, or something like that, I don't know. But the reason why I think it should be added is, because it's basically, it could be probably like the, the AVS, or the AVT? AVS, AVT to, in Berlin, where basically, it's as good as the FG, but it's, there's a small downgrade over it, where the Johnson would probably be the inverse, because it has a 25 round magazine. Anyways, the next thing they probably should add, which is another must, is the Browning M1919, either the A4 or the A6. It'll probably go towards the A6, because the A4 was more of a fixed weapon, whereas the A6 was more portable. The reason being is the Allies don't actually have a big LMG. If you look at the Axis, they've got the MG34 and the MG42, and to an extent the Braider also fits this, but the Braider's shit. But, yeah, the MG34 and the MG42... they're great for holding down corridors. You set them up, and you knock the enemies down. The BARA2 can do this with the slow auto fire, which is why it's not a complete write-off. But the problem is they can't really hold a point like with an LMG, unless they build one, obviously. But I think this would be great because you could just set one up and you can knock the enemies down. It's really good. And while, yeah, you've got the A2 is a very, very good weapon and still brilliant. It's still a, top 3 weapon in my opinion. I think that, having an MG34 would be very useful. Like, an MG34 counter would be very useful. And the final infantry-based weapon is the M9 bazooka. Now, the M9 bazooka, the reason being, is the M1 bazooka is shit. Okay, I'm just going to say it. The M1 bazooka is really shit. So having the M9 would basically give them a good long-range anti-tank weapon, because the Piat's really only good up to about 100 meters. 60 to 100 meters is where the Piat excels, whereas a bazooka is about 100 to 400. Pretty strong, and yeah, in my opinion, this would be very, very good. Especially against something, against the enemy vehicles that could come later. Especially because there's one enemy vehicle which is coming, which I'll mention when I talk about the Axis. But yeah, talking of vehicles, there's 2 tanks to add. The first one is the EZ-8, which is the perfect counter to the Panther. Now, there is, of course, already the M10 and the Firefly, but the problem with them is that the Firefly is not behind a paywall, for a start, and the M10 is a situational vehicle. The EZ-8 would be basically the Firefly, only better. It would be the Firefly, but better, because it'll have better armor, it'll have the same gun, it'll have basically the exact same gun, only it would be the American version of the 76mm, so it would be the M7 cannon, I believe it is. It might be, is it the M7? Can't remember, but yeah, it would basically be the exact same gun as the M10, but probably more like the armor, just better armor. Like the M10, you hit here, you hit the side of the M10, and they're going, even from the front, which you can do quite easily, because this is very weak armor. This is very weak armor. If you hit here or here, you hit these 2 bits, even with a jumbo weapon, even with the M3, you will destroy it. It's very easy to destroy an M10. And that's the big weakness of the M10, really. But I'll talk about that later. Anyways, the final vehicle is the M36, or the Jackson, which is essentially the M10, but bigger. It's got a much bigger gun, which will be great for what I'm going to be suggesting for the Axis. Because really, like, this thing, the M10, it's okay, but it's not the best anti-tank weapon. Whereas the Jackson, it's got a massive 90mm gun. So I think that would be great for the Allies. For the Axis, there's not really much. Like I said, it's really nitpicky. There's one thing I think they really need, which is a semi-automatic grenade launcher. Now, as you can see, both of their grenade launchers are based on Kar 98K. The regular grenade launcher is Kar 98K. And the AT grenades are the Kar 98K, again, the worst weapon in the game. Whereas if they have a semi-auto version, there's only 2 candidates really, which is the Gavir 43, because early models of the Gavir 43 were fitted with the shooting cup, and this. Yeah. And I don't think we need to make this any more OP than it already is. Anyways, next is actually a pair of LMGs. Now, the first LMG is probably made to counter the M1919, because the M1919 will probably have 100 rounds, so it's going to be one of 2, in my opinion, to counter the M1919, which will either be a 100 round belt-fed MG42, or if they want to, recycle content, this is the one I don't want them to do, the drum magazine for the MG34, which I think will look awesome, though, to be honest. But this looks like a pretty cool MG34, but it's just going to be an MG34 again. So, but the same with the 42. So I don't know if they will add that. One thing they could add, which would be interesting, is basically, well, there's 2 things which could fit the theme, which is a close-range LMG. Now, the reason I'm saying a close-range LMG is because they don't have a close-range LMG in Normandy. The main candidate would probably be the MG13, because everyone loves the MG13 in Moscow, so pretty good. But one thing which could be interesting is the Chorchat, because if you don't know, the reason why there's quite a few French weapons in Normandy is because the Chorchat, like, well, like the, you know, the reason why there's quite a few old weapons is because the German divisions actually used French equipment, so like the MAZ 36 and stuff like that. Which is actually why the Lebel is in Berlin as well. Because the Volkssturm just basically used anything. And that included old Lebel rifles. But yeah, the reason why the Chorchat would be interested is because, well, A, it's not in the any of the campaigns. I know it was in that one premium squad, but that doesn't really count. But I think it would be quite cool to add the Chorchat. And yeah, I think that would be, you know, really good. Like, you know, it'll be an interesting thing. It'll be something different. And if done correctly, it could be the perfect counter to the Allies' close range supremacy, while the Allies get something that combats the Axis' you know, ability to hold down a point. Which I think, yeah, could be quite cool. Anyways, the final thing to add is the Panzerschreck. Now, I know the Panzerfaust and the Sturm Pistol are very good anti-tank weapons, but the problem is that, you know, there's nothing that really that they have for long range. And God forbid they had the Pershing, you know, you're going to need a Panzerschreck. And the Schreck, you know, it's a very good weapon. Like, it's a very good anti-tank weapon. So, yeah, I can see the Panzerschreck being added to Normandy. Now, there's only one vehicle I think they should add, which I think they are confirmed to add. Don't quote me on that. Which is, I'm going to have to go over to Berlin for this one. It's, you know it's coming. It's the Tiger. Now, there was a reason why I suggested the M36 to Jackson to be added, and the same with the ET8, is because if they do add the Tigers, those will be the only things to counter the Tiger. Now, everyone knows what the Tiger is. I don't think it needs to be suggested. Like, this thing is insane. It's one of the most insane it's one of the most insane vehicles of the war. You know, it's a Tiger. What can you say about it? It's iconic. It's one of the most iconic vehicles of the war. It's one of the most recognizable vehicles of the war. You know, there's nothing that can be said about the Tiger that hasn't already been said. So, and yeah, there was Tigers in Normandy. Just look at Wittmann. Anyways, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments. You know, leave your thoughts on what should be added, and I'll see you guys in the next video.